It's not your wrinkles that make people avoid you, it's your habits. Let that sink in. The truth is, most people don't drift away from the elderly because of age, illness, or inconvenience. They pull away because being around you feels heavy, because conversations turn into complaints, advice becomes criticism, and love turns into guilt. And the cruelest part? No one dares to tell you. Your children smile politely, your friends stay quiet, and the world moves a few steps further each day until you're left wondering when everyone became so cold. But maybe it's not them. Maybe it's what you've become without noticing. As a doctor who has spent decades with older patients, I've seen how invisible habits slowly poison relationships and leave even the kindest souls alone. I've watched patients heal from heart attacks but die inside from isolation. I've seen brilliant men who once led companies now sit in silence, wondering why their grown children barely call. I've seen women who raised entire families now whisper, "Nobody listens to me anymore." The numbers are alarming. Nearly 1 in 3 seniors in America lives alone. Studies show that chronic loneliness increases the risk of early death by up to 45%, more than smoking or obesity. Yet when I ask my patients what hurts most, they rarely say, "My back" or "my knees." They say, "I feel invisible." In medicine, we're trained to treat diseases hypertension, diabetes, arthritis. But there's a deeper illness spreading through the aging population: emotional decay. It doesn't show up on a CT scan, but it's there in every sigh, every bitter remark, every long pause after a phone call ends. Here's the truth. Most of these people aren't avoided because they're old. They're avoided because they've unknowingly developed habits that repel warmth, conversation, and connection. And every year, those habits grow stronger, while their social world grows smaller. We're busy keeping their bodies alive, while their souls are quietly dying. Let's talk about the 7 ugly habits in old age that quietly drive people away. 1. Constant complaining and negativity. If you want to see how fast people vanish from a room, start complaining the moment they walk in. I say that not to be cruel, but because I've seen it destroy more relationships than dementia or death ever could. Many older adults I meet spend their days reciting a litany of everything that's wrong: their health, their children, the government, the weather, kids these days. It's like a broken record of disappointment. But here's what they don't realize. Constant negativity doesn't invite sympathy, it drains it. The younger people around you, even your own children, start to feel helpless, guilty, or suffocated. They stop calling not because they don't care, but because every call becomes emotional labor. Negativity is contagious, and no one wants to catch it. There's a fine line between sharing pain and spreading bitterness. One heals, the other poisons. When you fill your space with complaints, you leave no room for connection. People aren't running from your age. They're running from the storm you bring with you. 2. Refusing to listen, only talking about yourself. I once had a patient named Robert, 82, who loved to talk. Every visit was the same. Stories about his Navy days, his kids' mistakes, his glory years. But he never once asked how anyone else was doing. One day, his daughter stopped accompanying him to appointments. "I just can't listen anymore," she said, tears in her eyes. Here's the truth. As we age, our world narrows. We lose friends, careers, routines. Talking about the past becomes comforting. It's safe, familiar, under our control. But when every conversation becomes a monologue, it tells others, "My story matters more than yours. My story matters more than yours." Listening is oxygen for relationships. Without it, connection suffocates. And yet, listening becomes harder with age, not only emotionally, but neurologically. Our brains slow down in processing new information, making us cling to familiar narratives. That's why older people often repeat the same stories. It's how the brain seeks coherence. But self-awareness can turn this around. Try this. Instead of talking about what you know, ask what you don't. Ask your grandchildren about their world. Let them teach you. That humility doesn't make you smaller, it makes you relevant again. Wisdom isn't about talking more, it's about listening better. San, playing the victim in every situation. There's a dangerous comfort in self-pity. I see it in the way some of my patients talk. "I gave everything to my kids, and look how they treat me." Nobody respects old people anymore. "I'm always alone, but no one cares." It sounds tragic, and it is, but not for the reason they think. Because victimhood, when worn too long, becomes a shield against growth. When you keep seeing yourself as the one who was wronged, you unconsciously make others responsible for your happiness. Your adult children, your neighbors, your doctors, they can never do enough to make it right. Eventually, they stop trying. People avoid those who constantly broadcast pain, but reject healing. Self-pity drains empathy faster than any disease. Here's the hard truth. Life is unfair. You may have worked hard, sacrificed, loved deeply, and still ended up lonely. That's real. But the difference between loneliness and bitterness is ownership. You can't control how others behave, but you can control the story you tell yourself. Stop saying, "Look what they did to me." Start saying, "Look what I choose to do now." That's the moment aging stops being a tragedy and becomes wisdom. 4. Refusing change or new ideas. Many older adults wear their resistance like a badge of honor. I don't need smartphones. Everything was better in my time. And 40 said as where. This generation has no respect. But let me be brutally honest. Refusing to adapt doesn't make you wise. It makes you obsolete. Change is uncomfortable for everyone, but for the elderly, it feels threatening. It challenges identity. If you spent decades believing certain values, then suddenly the world moves differently. It's easy to feel lost or defensive. However, the refusal to evolve isolates you faster than aging ever could. I've seen grandparents who could have FaceTimed their grandchildren but refused to learn that nonsense. They complain their families never visit, not realizing they've built the wall themselves. Being open to new ideas, technology, social norms, even slang isn't about keeping up. It's about staying connected. The moment you stop learning, you stop relating. I once told a patient, "Your grandchildren live in a world you helped build. If you reject it, you reject them." He paused, tears welling in his eyes. "I never thought of it that way." Stubbornness is not strength. Flexibility is. You're not protecting tradition when you reject change, you're suffocating connection. 5. Lack of emotional hygiene. We talk endlessly about physical health medications, exercise, diet, but almost no one talks about emotional hygiene. I use that phrase because emotions, like the body, need daily cleaning. Neglected emotions rot into resentment, anger, and toxicity. Some older adults explode over the smallest things. A delayed visit, a misplaced phone call, a doctor running late. They scold, criticize, and judge, often without realizing the damage they cause. These emotional outbursts push people away, not because others lack patience, but because they feel unsafe around volatility. Science backs this up. Chronic anger elevates cortisol, damages the heart, weakens immunity, and accelerates cognitive decline. The emotional literally becomes physical. So when I say emotional hygiene, I mean habits like reflection, forgiveness, gratitude, and calm communication. Ask yourself daily, what am I feeding my mind? If your diet is fear, bitterness, or blame, your relationships will starve. The elderly, who age beautifully, share one secret: they manage emotions like gardeners, pruning resentment before it overtakes their peace. Emotional hygiene is as vital as brushing your teeth, because no one wants to sit beside someone who reeks of unresolved anger. 6. Living in the past. The music was better in my day. People had morals then. Life used to be simpler. Every generation says this as they age. But when nostalgia becomes your permanent address, you stop living in the present. Living in the past creates an invisible wall. Younger people feel judged, compared, and dismissed. Your stories of the good old days might comfort you, but to others, they sound like a declaration that nothing today is good enough. The truth is, the past can be beautiful, but it's gone. And clinging to it doesn't preserve it. It traps you inside it. In therapy, we call this temporal fixation, when one's identity is anchored so deeply in the past that new experiences feel irrelevant. It's emotionally paralyzing. Your grandchildren don't need to hear another story about 1965. They need to see you curious about 2025. They need to see that growth doesn't end at 70. Remember, when you live in the past, you die a little every day. But when you bring your wisdom into the present, you become a bridge instead of a relic. 7. neglecting personal dignity and appearance. This is perhaps the most heartbreaking pattern I see and one of the hardest to talk about. I've walked into homes where the once proud matriarch now lives in clutter, unwashed clothes, and dim light. I've seen men who used to shave daily now go weeks without caring. They say, "What's the point? Who's going to see me anyway?" But dignity isn't for others. It's for yourself. Neglecting your appearance isn't a sign of freedom, it's a symptom of giving up. Psychologically, it's often linked to depression and loss of self-worth. And here's the cruel paradox. The less you care for yourself, the less others want to be around you, which deepens the loneliness you were already drowning in. Personal hygiene, grooming, keeping your space clean, these are acts of self-respect. They communicate, "I still matter." When you take care of your body, you send a message to your mind. I'm still alive, and I'm not done yet. Respect starts with how you treat yourself. These habits don't come from malice, and they're not signs of being a bad person. They are the scars of aging, the result of loss, grief, fear, and the desperate attempt to stay relevant in a world that seems to have moved on. When people feel unseen, they complain. When they feel unheard, they talk endlessly. When they feel powerless, they control. When they feel outdated, they criticize. All of these patterns are defense mechanisms, emotional armor built over years of disappointment. But that same armor, meant to protect, slowly becomes a prison. One of my patients once told me, "I built walls to protect myself from being hurt. But now, those same walls keep everyone out." That, right there, is the tragedy of aging without awareness. We blame others for leaving, but we rarely see the fortress we've constructed with our own behavior. Loneliness in old age isn't just circumstantial, it's behavioral. It's the outcome of unexamined habits that harden over time until even love can't get through. And why doesn't anyone tell you this truth? Because honesty with the elderly is dangerous territory. No one wants to hurt your feelings or appear disrespectful, so they stay quiet, nod politely, visit less, and slowly disappear. Your children may not tell you that your negativity exhausts them. Your friends may not tell you that your self-pity drains them. But silence is not kindness, it's surrender. I often tell my patients, people aren't avoiding you because you're old. They're avoiding the energy you bring. At first, they react with anger. But a week later, many come back with tears in their eyes and whisper, "You're right. I've become hard to love." That painful realization is often the first step toward healing. Aging gracefully has nothing to do with looking young. It's about staying emotionally fresh. You can't erase wrinkles, but you can erase bitterness. You can't stop time, but you can stop turning it into regret. The most magnetic older adults I know aren't necessarily wealthy or healthy. They're kind. They're curious, patient, funny, forgiving. They radiate peace instead of judgment. They don't cling to the past, they make peace with it. They don't demand love. They earn it daily through warmth and grace. These are the people others want to be around, not out of obligation, but out of admiration. That's the paradox of aging well. The softer you become, the stronger your presence. So, face the mirror. If any of these habits sound painfully familiar, that's not shame, it's awareness. And awareness is the first step to reclaiming your humanity. No one expects you to be perfect. Aging is brutal. It takes friends, independence, strength, and sometimes even your sense of purpose. It's natural to grieve. But don't let that grief harden into bitterness. Take an honest look at yourself and ask, am I easier to love now than I was 10 years ago? When people leave my company, do they feel lighter or heavier? Am I still learning or just remembering? These questions aren't meant to wound you. They're meant to wake you. Because the truth is simple, no one can save the elderly except those brave enough to face the truth about themselves. And when you finally do, something remarkable happens. People begin to return. Conversations feel lighter. Grandchildren call more often. The world starts to open up again. Not because it changed, but because you did. That's the real medicine for loneliness, and unlike pills, it's one only you can prescribe. After decades of listening to older adults tell me about their pain, regrets, and isolation, I've realized something profound. Aging doesn't destroy connection. Ego does. The habits that drive people away can be unlearned, and healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before bitterness took root. It's never too late to choose warmth over withdrawal, curiosity over control, and grace over guilt. The path to healing begins with small, conscious acts of emotional courage. 1. Practice self-awareness every day. Every transformation starts with a mirror. Each morning, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, would I want to spend time with me today? It's a humbling question, but a powerful one. Self-awareness forces honesty. Notice your tone when you speak. Notice if your words bring comfort or tension. Write down your emotions instead of unloading them on others. When you begin observing your own reactions, you regain control over them. Awareness turns autopilot habits into conscious choices, and that's where change begins. R. Learn to listen again. Listening is the purest form of love. It says, you matter. I see you. Too often, aging turns conversations into history lessons or lectures. But if you want your children or grandchildren to draw closer, make space for their world. Ask about their work, their music, their struggles, even if you don't understand half of it. Resist the urge to correct or compare. Just listen. It's not about agreeing. It's about connecting. The most respected elders aren't the loudest. They're the ones who make others feel heard. 3. Rebuild curiosity and humility. Curiosity is the antidote to bitterness. The moment you stop being curious, you stop growing. Learn something new technology, a language, even a TikTok trend your grandkids love. It's not about keeping up. It's about keeping open. Humility allows you to say, I don't know, but I'd like to understand. That single sentence bridges generations. In a world changing faster than ever, humility isn't weakness, it's wisdom in motion. 4. Take care of your emotional hygiene. Clean your heart like you clean your teeth. Each night, before bed, forgive someone even if that person is you. Let go of one resentment at a time. Replace bitterness with gratitude, not because life is perfect, but because it's still yours. Practice calm breathing when you feel irritation rising. Speak less when angry. Pause before criticizing. The goal isn't to suppress emotion, it's to manage it with dignity. A gentle spirit doesn't mean a passive one. It means mastering strength without cruelty. 5. Show love, not control. Love doesn't dictate, it accepts. Many parents push their children away, not through hate, but through the desire to control. Let your children live differently from you. Let your grandchildren dream in ways you can't comprehend. Love is not about directing their path. It's about lighting it. Instead of saying, you should, try saying, I trust you. You'll be amazed how quickly walls turn into bridges when love replaces expectation. Remember this, healing in old age isn't about fixing the past. It's about reclaiming the present. You don't need to be younger, richer, or healthier to be loved. You just need to become easier to love. Kindness costs nothing, but its impact is priceless. As I tell my patients, old age doesn't make you irrelevant. Bitterness does. So soften. Breathe. Begin again. You still have time to be remembered, not for your pain, but for your peace. Don't just grow old. Grow kind. That's how you stay alive in people's hearts long after time has taken everything else.